I have been using Intellij for almost 6 years now. Do you want to know what are the different shortcuts, plugins, settings, and the intelligence which I use daily? Let's see what are the different tips and tricks which I use in my day to day life with Intellij.
Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss any update from Tech Primers.
Before getting into the video, let's check what version of Intellij I do have so that you can relate it to whatever version I have. So I currently have the community edition 2017.2.7 which was built recently. So I just installed it yesterday and I am just showing the shortcuts which I've been using in this particular version. There is also a 2018 edition of EAP early access program which is available. You can try that as well. There are some more features which are specific to Spring and Java 9 and Lambda expressions and streams. Those are pretty useful, but I especially use 2017.2 version till now. So I haven't started using 2018 version yet. Let's see the different shortcuts which I use. Let's go through the default shortcuts which are mentioned here one by one, and let's see why I use them or how I use them. The first up is double shift. I use double shift when I want to search something in the IntelliJ but I don't want to go there by using my mouse. The typical example would be double shifting and then searching for presentation assist. When I am doing presentations, I just use this presentation option and I just say toggle presentation, and you can notice that the IntelliJ is now zoomed in. This is basically the same presentation mode which we have in IntelliJ. You can go to view and you have an option called presentation mode. So we are enabling the presentation mode automatically by just using the double shift option. Now let's say I want to exit the presentation view. I can just do the same again. I just did the double shift and I just said presentation and I'm just going through the toggle mode and then say okay, exit the presentation window. So this is very helpful when you don't want to have anything visible in your screen except your code. So that will be helpful when you're showing some IntelliSense code or when you're typing something for a specific set of audience. I'll show the presentation mode in a while when I'm showing IntelliSense so that you have a clear idea of what I'm doing with presentation and how you can use it. The next one is command 1. So command 1 is useful when you want to open the projects which is there in the left side. You can go and do that via mouse, but if you do that via the shortcut, it's much faster. See that how quickly I'm just toggling the projects window. So when you are opening a specific file and you want to see the projects window, you can do that. The next option is going to a file. So you can use the shift command and O in Mac. The relevant command for the Windows is command control shift and N. So you can notice whenever I press the shortcut, you can see something below, that is the presentation assist. There is a plugin installed. For that, I'll just show you when I come to the plugins section, but for now the shortcut for opening a file is command shift and O, and you can see different files which are shown up here. It shows all the files irrespective of their language. It could be Java, it could be Groovy, it could be a zip file, text file. You see that it shows everything. So the shortcut was control shift and O for viewing all the files. The same shortcut can be tweaked to just view only the class files. You can just do command O or control N and just see the class files alone. See that it just shows the class file, it doesn't show .java because this is going to just search for just the class files, and it can search for the test files as well. That's what you can see here. It even searches for the test file, and if you just go there, you can just get into the file directly. In order to close a particular window, we just go and close it here. So let me open a file and I'll do a command W. This closes the particular file which is just open. In order to go to the recent file, we can do a command E. If you do a command E or control E in Windows, it is going to show the recent files and you can directly go to the file which you have opened. If you want to close this file, you can do command W, and if you want to open a recent file, you can do command E. If you want to open a recently edited file, you can just do command shift and E. So this will show the recently edited files. So let's try editing a file and let's see what happens. Let's add some piece of code here. I'll just add a null check. I just added a null check, nothing else, right? So this is a recently edited file. If I just close this file, I'll just use the shortcuts Command W. Let me open Control E or Command E. This shows up all the files which I had recently opened. But if I do a Command Shift and E or Control Shift and E, it shows only the edited file. If you see that, Singleton Endpoint Configurator has been edited and it shows up only the edited files. So if you want to quickly navigate between the edited files, you can use Control Shift and E or Command Shift and E. And if you want to see all the recent files, you can do a Command E or Control E. So this will be very helpful. I use it a lot because when I move to different files and if I want to quickly move between files, I just use Command E when I want to quickly navigate between files, right? So let me close everything. The other shortcut which I use extensively is Command Shift and A. If I, let's say, I want to search for my font size, I can just do that using this option Control Shift A. I can just do a search for font, and if I go there, it directly takes me to the option where it is present. So it is present in the settings window under the editor font. So it directly takes me there. So we can use Control Shift A for that. If let's say you want to do presentation mode, again, you can do presentation mode here. You can go here and do it. I'll just switch it off for now. So Control Shift A is going to search across IntelliJ, inside IntelliJ. Double shift is going to search everywhere. I can even search the if you notice here, there is a run configuration here. I have a run configuration present which is called the dashboard. You can even search that using the search everywhere, but with the Control Shift A you can search anything inside IntelliJ, the settings or anything which is present inside IntelliJ where you don't know where it exists. So that you can do. Let's say I have lots of stuff open and I want to have a clean window. So if this is my option, right? So let's say I have these many windows open, and if I want to have my windows closed, all my windows need to be closed. So in that option, you can use Control or Command Shift and F12. So this maximizes the file and removes all the windows which were present. So if I just press that again, it will just go to the same state, and if I just do that again, it just goes off. So you can remove these. If I just have this also open, right? Sometimes this happens, right? You have too many stuff and then you will have to manually do this one by one. Instead, you can do command shift F12 or control shift F12 in order to remove all these options. The other one is, let's say I have too many files open, and how do I move between the files? In that case, we can use the command and the open brace where it just moves to the left. Command and raise base, right one move to the right. So you can use Control Alt and right in Windows. However, if you are using it in Mac, you can use command and left arrow, sorry, the left open brace, and command and right open brace for moving to that particular file. And you notice that there are too many tabs here. Sometimes I even disable the tabs. So what I do is I go to settings and then I go to editor tabs and then I disable it. So you can have none. So that way the tabs won't even show up. See this, right? There is only one file here. If I just open multiple files, it will just go to that file and it won't even show that in the tab. So if I need to navigate, I can just use my shortcuts which I have been telling you. So that is another best way of using IntelliJ. If you want to have clear and concise view of what is happening, then you can disable the tabs. Unless or until you want to manually navigate through the mouse, it is not productive. Now coming to the theme settings which I have currently mapped my key map to the OS X 10 plus 5. You can have anything mapped. So if you are in Windows, you can use that as well, or if you are in a Mac user, you can use the Mac one, or if you are coming from Eclipse, you can either use Eclipse one or the Eclipse for Mac, or you can even use the Emacs or whatever genome you are coming from. But by default, if you're using Mac OS is 10.5 plus, it has lots of key maps and it is pretty good. So that is the setting I use currently. The color scheme is Dracula theme, so I don't um, use any other theme here, but I used to use Blue Forest theme at office. So I have the blue forest theme, which will have a black background with the um, blue fonts, and I have customized it for my need. So you can even customize every text color based on your need, so you can do that as well. How do I use intelligence? So intelligence is another way of reusing stuff which are already present inside IntelliJ. For example, let's try using some intelligence, right? There is a variable called full tweet, and if you just type dot, it's going to suggest some stuff. And let's say I want to do code point at, I can just do ca and it just shows character at. And if I want to use the code point a, I could have just said cpa. So this way you can directly use intelligence from IntelliJ out of the box. And if I want to, let's say, do a null check on this particular object, I used to use dot null and then I press tab. It automatically converts the piece of code into a null check. If I just say not null, I want to check not null, you can just say not null and you can do a tab. It automatically does the not null check. Let's say I have an object comparison. So I'm just, let's try doing this, right? I'm trying to compare two objects. And now I need to wrap this into a if loop. I decide that after I do a equals check. Then in that case, you can do a dot and you see bunch of options which are there. So you can use this to create this code out of the box. So you can just do a if and then do a tab and it automatically creates the if loop. If you want to be an else case, an exclamatory case, then you can do a else. So if I want to have an exclamatory in the front and then do it, I can just do a else and then do a tab. This gets automatically generated. You can do the same with a try block. You can just do a dot try and automatically get that piece of code enclosed within a try catch block. So that is another way of using it. So I use these kind of shortcuts or intelligence which is available inside the IntelliJ itself. Same way with asserts, you can just do a dot assert, and these are different options which are available by default and it shows up what is there. So if you see here, if you want to do an optional, you can just do opt and then you can get the optional out of the box. So which is very good when you are a fast typer and you don't want to go back and front and you don't want to use your mouse at all. So that is when it is extremely helpful. The other stuffs are reusing this code. So I don't use control C, control V. I use command D, which will just replicate the line or duplicate the line. The other thing which I use extensively is the terminal option here. I extensively use this terminal option when I want to do something in the terminal. For example, if I want to run any maven task, I do that. Here it is griddle, so you can just say griddle clean, something like that. I can just do a griddle. So you can do that from the terminal. You don't have to navigate to a separate command prompt. You can directly do that here. If you want to commit from git, you can use that, or in fact you can even use the version control which is inbuilt from the IntelliJ. In order to open the version control from the IntelliJ, you can directly do a control V, which will take you directly to the VCS options, the version control options. You can directly do a push or you can do a stash, unstash, whatever you want. In fact, you can even compare it with the same repository version. So you can do that direct without even having to use the mouse. You can directly go to this window using the shortcuts. So you can use Control V and directly go there. Same with the show history options. You can directly use the show history option and see who has modified this project. The other intelligence feature which I use um, in IntelliJ is with respect to streams. Let's try searching for a file and I'll show you how I use streams and I leverage IntelliJ for that. So let's say there is a list, right? See, this is a list which has sessions and I need to do something over a stream. And when I want to do something, I just rely on IntelliJ to see what options they have. And looking at the interfaces here, notice that filter gets a predicate, supplier gets a collector, for each gets a consumer. So even though if you don't know what is a consumer or what is a collector or what is a supplier, you can leverage that. Let's say I'm doing a peak and I don't know what it is doing, so I can rely on IntelliJ to just say new consumer, so that it automatically writes the code which the consumer has. And now I can just write something saying is open, is secure. I'll just print this. So I'll just print this. Now that I know it is going to get printed, I can just use this option Alt Enter to replace this into a lambda. So you don't have to know the lambda expression exclusively. So this is a way where you can start learning lambda expression. You can just do a new consumer, write the code inside the implementation, and then finally allow IntelliJ to replace that with a lambda. So this is a much better or a cleaner solution when you're starting off with lambda expressions. So I used to use it extensively. Now I am comfortable with what is a consumer, what is a predicate, what is a function, etc. So I don't use it, but you can generally use it a lot. So what are the different plugins I use? So I generally use the Markdown plugin. So Markdown plugin is when you have a README file, and I don't think it is there here. The other thing is I use the Git plugin, the Git ignore plugin, which will automatically ignore the Git files, and you can see what are the files which are getting excluded. So this shows up what are the files which needs to be excluded, and we can configure that. So then there is a plugin. See this, right? Add version control. Yeah. So I have a plugin for that. The other thing is SonarLint. I use SonarLint when I want to track uh, violations in the code. You can run the SonarLint plugin to identify the violations which are present in the code without even having to check after the build is succeeded. So you can locally check the Sonar violations using SonarLint here. The shortcuts which you see here in the below, the option which shows up the shortcuts, what kind of shortcuts I am using, the this particular option, right? So that is nothing but the presentation assist. So there is a plugin called presentation assist, and you can use that particular plugin. I'll just go to plugins. This is the plugin which I'm using, the presentation assist. This helps you in showing up the different options when I'm writing some shortcuts. So if you're um, working or presenting something to a wider audience, you can enable it so that people know what kind of shortcuts you are using. Or it is even helpful when you are doing pair programming, when the other person wants to know what kind of shortcuts you are using. There is even lots of customizations present in the presentation assist. So if you go to the presentation assist option, you can see that what kind of key map can be assigned. So you can assign a key map and it shows up automatically. Same way the alternative key map also shows up. So right now I have configured it for Windows and Linux. That's how it shows up. You can reduce the font, increase the font, align it whether to be shown in the left, right, or center, or even in the top. So you can do all these customizations in this particular plugin. So those were the different plugins, shortcuts, IntelliSense, and the theme settings which I use. I hope you found it interesting or learned something new from this video. If you like the video, go ahead and like it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to it. Meet you again in the next video. Thank you very much.